Imagine paddling your canoe out into a vast, rugged wilderness where, honestly, you might not see another soul for days. Well, today, we're unpacking a virtual expedition into exactly that kind of place, the stunning Lake Panache and Killarney Lakelands region of northern Ontario. We're going to explore a geographically fascinating and culturally rich area that, surprisingly, a lot of people just completely overlook when they head north. So grab your paddle, figuratively speaking, of course, and let's jump right into today's explainer.
So here's the real secret to this region. If you're seeking a breathtaking outdoor adventure, but you desperately want to skip those heavy tourist crowds, you have just found your next destination. You see, while the southern parts of Killarney Provincial Park draw massive shoulder-to-shoulder crowds every single year, the northern access points offer a much more secluded, quiet experience. It's the absolute perfect sweet spot for those of us who really just want to connect with nature in peace.
Here is our quick itinerary for today's explainer. We'll start with a welcome to Lake Panache, then move on to paddling the northern access, dive into the geology and natural wonders, discuss managing the lakelands, and finally, look at Indigenous culture and stewardship.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1. Welcome to Lake Panache, the historic gateway.
You really can't understand the Killarney Lakelands without first wrapping your head around the massive body of water that guards its northern border, spanning an incredible 8,034 hectares and plunging to depths of 55 meters. Think about that for a second. That is deep enough to completely submerge a 15-story building. Lake Panache is an absolute giant. To give you a little more perspective, this lake has over 417 kilometers of shoreline. Its westernmost point reaches way out near Espanola, and it stretches all the way east toward Killarney. And because much of the lake is only accessible by boat, it immediately gives you that remote, untouched feeling the very second you leave the dock.
Now, despite its massive size, it only has about 45 permanent residents, alongside roughly 470 seasonal cottagers. That means Lake Panache relies heavily on its main launch pad. Panache Bay Marina actually has roots stretching back nearly a century. It serves as our main gateway into the wild, providing access for everyone from weekend cottagers to winter anglers who are out there chasing lake trout through the ice. It's an amazing anchor for the community and truly the perfect starting line for our expedition.
Moving right along to Section 2, paddling the northern access, where we find true solitude on the water. Now that we've launched, let's explore the vast canoeing possibilities hidden up here, because this is where the magic really opens up. Most canoeists tend to flock straight to those famous white quartzite lakes further south. But it turns out the real charm is in the quiet. Outdoor writer Kevin Callan kind of hit the nail on the head here. He notes that this northern range among the Lac Cloche Mountains offers an experience uniquely its own. You get incredible history, absolutely phenomenal fishing, and honestly, most importantly, campsites where you can truly just escape.
And getting to those campsites is easier than ever. These 12 new portage routes completely change how we can explore this area. Actually, it's a total game changer. Instead of a grueling 3-kilometer uphill hike coming from the south, you can now access pristine spots like Great Mountain Lake with just a few short, totally manageable carries starting from the north. It makes the deep wilderness far more accessible, but without ruining that secluded, untouched feel.
Now that being said, if you are up for a steep, challenging hike, Nellie Lake is calling your name. Its mesmerizing, crystal-clear water is literally a living piece of Canadian art history. The portage is tough, no doubt about it, so it's best done as a day trip with just a day pack. But the payoff? Immense. After that climb, you'll be standing in the exact spot where Group of 7 painter A.Y. Jackson stood when he painted Nellie Lake. The scenery was so striking that it actually inspired him to fight for the park's initial development. How cool is that?
Let's dig a little deeper with Section 3, Geology and Natural Wonders, a land of contrasts.
The beauty here isn't just on the surface, it's literally baked right into the rocks. Beneath your canoe, the terrain is actually split by an ancient tectonic fault line. You are physically transitioning from the billion-year-old bedrock of the Grenville province into the rugged, ancient volcanic scars of the southern province. It's just this raw, incredible display of Earth's timeline right at the water's edge, featuring rocks from the Huronian supergroup dipping through faults and ancient geological dikes.
And because of that geology, we see a stark and really surprising ecological contrast here. You have the breathtaking but lifeless quartzite waters versus the thriving, resilient granite lakes. So, because of historical smokestack pollution from nearby Sudbury, acid rain hit this region really hard in the past. Those famous, beautifully clear turquoise lakes surrounded by white quartzite, they look gorgeous like a swimming pool, but they are practically dead zones because quartzite just can't buffer the acid. Pink granite, on the other hand, acts like a natural shield. It keeps the water's pH balanced so ecosystems can actually survive and flourish.
And thanks to those granite buffers, the region is just teeming with an incredibly diverse food web. Because the pH in these northern lakes usually stays safely above 6.0, anglers can find a multi-species haven. We're talking walleye, pike, and bass. The surrounding 50 to 120-year-old forests also provide vital shelter for sensitive species, including the eastern Canadian wolf. It all comes together to create a wildly vibrant natural environment. That brings us to Section 4. Managing the Lakelands and the Rules of the Wild.
You can probably guess that managing a space this massive and ecologically significant is no small feat. It requires a really careful balancing act. Regulated back in 2006, the park rules are designed to complement the ecological integrity of the wilderness. So while you can still totally enjoy sport fishing, boating, existing wild rice harvesting, and authorized snowmobiling, the landscape is firmly, fiercely protected from things like new commercial logging, mining, and hydro developments. This guarantees that when you finally make that trip, the headwaters and wetlands are exactly as pristine as they were a century ago.
Finally, let's turn to Section 5, Indigenous Culture and Stewardship and the Future of the Land.
Because the history here isn't just about rocks and trees. It is deeply intertwined with the First Nations, who have called this place home for countless generations. A significant portion of Lake Panache is the traditional territory of the Atikameksheng Anishinaabe. Anchored by their striking domed cultural center, the community has deep, inherent roots stretching all across this watershed. Their historical memory, cultural foundations, and ongoing stewardship are an absolutely critical part of the landscape we've been exploring today.
And they aren't just looking to the past, they are actively shaping the future. In 2020, they published a fantastic, comprehensive, forward-looking roadmap. This plan isn't solely about the environment either. It's a holistic approach to rebuilding the close-knit fabric of their traditional community life, addressing everything from infrastructure all the way to cultural education.
Their roadmap focuses on 4 critical steps: recovering language and historical memory, advancing health and wellness, building sustainable prosperity, and championing environmental stewardship. It perfectly blends cultural revival with the protection of the natural world. They are actively working to map their traditional territory, ensure equitable benefits from land use, and align provincial environmental practices with Indigenous knowledge. And crucially, they see prosperity, for sure, but they explicitly state it must be achieved without compromising the well-being and sustainability of the natural world.
So as our explainer wraps up today, I want to leave you with this thought. When you finally dip your own paddle into those crystal clear waters of Lake Panache, are you just going to be a visitor passing through, or will you step up as an active steward of its billion-year history? It's a choice we all have to make. Thanks so much for joining me today, and as always, stay curious.